Hello and welcome to the Private Practice Podcast. I'm Dr. Storme, and with nearly 30 years experience in the industry, I'm really excited to share practical insights, valuable wisdom, and all the tools that you need to build a thriving private practice. So whether you're a counsellor, psychologist, social worker, or play therapist, this podcast is all about keeping it real with stories, strategies, and all the support you need to help you flourish in business. We're going to be embracing a mind, business, spirit approach, diving into honest conversations that will uplift your practice and soul. And if you haven't already, come and join us in the Counsellors Connect Australia Facebook group. It's totally free and you'll find a warm, supportive community of like-minded professionals. So go grab your favorite drink, your journal, a pen, get cozy, and let's dive into the mind, business, spirit approach to private practice that you've been looking for. Okay, good morning and welcome everybody to another episode of the Private Practice Podcast. I'm your host, Storme, and it's so lovely to have you here. Today, we are going to talk about recruitment because I'm so excited. People that started working with me in PP 101 2 or 3 years ago are now expanding and they're adding team members and subcontractors and employees, and it's so exciting. But there's a lot of confusion about what to do and how to do it. And some people have been making some big mistakes and some people are doing it really well. So I want to share with you today some of my insights as somebody who has had subcontractors and made a real mess of it, somebody who's had subcontractors and done really well with it, but also as someone who works as a private practice coach supporting private practice owners with this. I want to share with you some of the strategies that I use with my private coaching clients who are in the process of recruiting. So you might want to grab your pen and paper, your podcast journal, pen and paper, and take a few notes as we go along. So I've sort of sketched out here a little bit of an outline of what I want to discuss today. And I was going to say it's in no particular order, but in saying that, I have tried to put it in order. So we'll see how we go. And of course, this is not exhaustive and you will need to get personalised support for your private practice, in which case you can book a single session with me for mentoring or business coaching, and I will help you create a recruitment plan for your own private practice. But I'm going to give you some general information today. Okay, so first things first, when should you start to recruit? So this is really important. One of the things that I've seen a lot is private practice owners, we work for ourselves, right? And then the business just kind of is plodding along. And then one day, boom, there's a tipping point and it all just ticks over. And then next thing you know, we've got fully booked diaries and even wait lists, and we feel pressured and stressed. And now clients might be starting to get a bit toey because, you know, they're having to wait for appointments and things like that. You feel like you can't take a sick day because it's going to cause all this disruption, and, you know, work-life balance goes out the window, and all of a sudden you're not loving the practice anymore. It's feeling like it's, you know, sucking the life from you. We don't want it to feel like that. And so what happens is when we get in this situation, we say to ourselves, okay, I'm in pain. I need this problem solved. What am I going to do? And what we end up doing is say, okay, fine, then I'm just going to have to find somebody to help me. And we recruit. So this is one model that you can take. It's one pathway. There are other things you can do, but today we're focusing on choosing the path of getting help. So, you say, okay, what am I going to do? I'll put an ad on Indeed. I'll put an ad on Seek. I will ask people in Counsellors Connect Australia and in the ACPPO if anybody's looking for work and stuff like that. And then you get all these applications come through and you choose somebody. And what happens is you kind of do it in a bit of a rush because you don't have time really to recruit, you know, in air quotes, properly. So, and you don't even know what it means to recruit properly. So you're winging it. You're doing what you think is the right thing to do. You got, you know, some good candidates here. You talk to a couple of them. You choose one. You think they're going to be amazing, and then you choose a start date with you. Everything gets set up. They come down to the rooms. You give them a quick tour of the place and you say, okay, so this is where you'll be sitting. And here's Sophie, our receptionist. And there's the toilets and there's admin. And oh, by the way, do you know how to use Power Diary? You do? Fantastic. Okay, great. Your first client's going to be here, in an hour. So just take this time now to settle in. And then what happens is you go off and see clients because you've still got a fully booked diary, but now your new person is kind of sitting there for an hour by themselves in the room trying to do their own onboarding. And maybe feeling a combination of excited to be there, but kind of also overwhelmed, not really knowing what to do, but they do know how to do the couch work. And then next thing you know, their client turns up 15 minutes early. And so, boom, they just take that client in and they start working with them. What can happen is this new person will be working with clients, but they never got onboarded properly. And so they're starting to feel a little bit of resentment. They feel like they're being used. Their words, not mine. They feel like they're being used. They feel like, oh, well, I'm just here to see clients, she's taking a cut of my money. I'm giving her this much of my money. That's not fair. And then all this stuff starts to fester and brew. And then the subcontractor starts going, okay, so is this all it is, running a private practice? You just see clients and you have a receptionist and stuff. Is this all it is? Because if this is honestly all it is, why aren't I working for myself and keeping 100%? So they'll kind of use it as an opportunity to watch and learn how you're running private practice. And then they'll get to a point where they feel like, do you know what? I think I could do this myself. And they'll go off and get their own logo, business name, website, things like that. And then they'll start telling clients, oh yeah, I'm going to be wrapping up soon, and they've built relationships with those clients, and the client's going to say, oh, well, where are you going? Can I follow you? And then next thing you know, they're resigning, and it's only been less than 6 months or maybe even less than 12 months, and they're resigning. And now you've got a headache because they're taking your clients and they're, well, not taking your clients, but you know what I mean. They're taking work. I know clients can go wherever they like to go, but the fact is that your business brought in those clients. So in that sense, yes, they're taking your clients, they're taking your work, they're taking money away from your business that you put in the legwork to get. That's happening. And now you're going to be having to find someone to replace them again. They've given their notice. And now you've got a whole lot of clients who are going to be up in the air without appointments, who are needing to reshuffle. We've got diary situations, and you're back to feeling stressed, and then now you're back to recruiting. And this happens. And there are private practices that really struggle with recruitment. And this scenario that I've just described to you is really, really common. A lot of the time subbies will come in and they'll look around and they'll go, oh, actually, this looks pretty easy. This looks like something I could do myself. I don't see why I'm paying her all this money. So I think I'm just going to go and start my own thing. So, okay, how can you avoid it? Well, there are some things that you can do. At the end of the day, we can't stop your subcontractor going off and starting their own private practice, right? If they're going to do it, they're going to do it. But we can improve the way that you recruit. And, the first thing to do is put a demarcation around the time that you're going to recruit. So by that, I mean at what capacity. So when I was first learning all of this stuff, the way that I learned it was you start recruiting when you're at 70% capacity. So if you've got capacity to see 10 clients a week and you've got 7 appointments booked, that's when you start your recruitment. Not when you're already fully booked and now we're starting to get an accumulation of clients waiting in the wings for an appointment or a session. No. We do it when you're at 70%. And why? Because we don't want you rushing. So that's the first thing. So have a look at your diary now and think about, okay, how many clients do I see on average, and what would 70 or 75% of that look like? So that you know straight away, okay, it's time for me to start recruiting. So if you've got 4 days in your diary and you're full on 3 of them, now is the time to start recruiting. If you're going to grow the business, right? If you're not going to grow the business, don't listen to this episode. But this is what it looks like, okay? So that's when you would start recruiting. Now, how do you do that? I'm going to tell you exactly my process for recruiting. So, big breath in, because this is really, really big. I'm going to tell you what I know now because I stuffed it up in the beginning because I was rushing. I was desperate for somebody. I rushed it. I didn't know what I was doing. I do know now. So let me tell you the right way to recruit. What you're going to do is write out a list of, first off, your intention. Why do you want somebody for the practice? And link this to your values and to your shadow values. That's the very first thing. I didn't do that in the beginning. As I said, it was a nightmare. I mucked it up. It was, a hot mess. Now, if I'm going to hire somebody to work for me, I want to be calm. That's why we do it when we're at 70 or 75% capacity. I want to be calm. I want to take my time. I'm going to think about, okay, what's my intention here? Why do I want to get somebody on? And then I'm going to think about my ideal candidate for the role. Right? And I'm not just going to do the boring stuff that we see on Seek and Indeed about their skills. I want to take time. I know it's going to sound crazy to some of you, and you're going to say you're too busy and you don't have time for it, but make the time to sit down and do a visualization or a meditation about the right person for your practice. Imagine what skills they're bringing. Imagine their personality. Imagine the vibe that this person has. Like, you know what I mean? You go into some meetings at work and everybody's like really happy, and then somebody turns up and like the whole vibe of the room just drops. We don't want somebody that's going to make the vibe of the room just drop, right? So think about what sort of vibe does this new person have? What's their energy like? What's their personality like? What are their interests? What's their attitude like? Think about all those kinds of things. Are they someone who's a quick learner? Can they pick up things very, very quickly? Are they someone who's going to, I don't know, in the lunchroom with the other people, are they going to be like, bitching about everything and complaining and just like bringing everyone down? Or are they going to be contributing in a really positive way that lifts people up? Are they someone who rolls up their sleeves and chips in and helps? Or do you know what I mean? Think about the ideal person for your practice. That's the next thing, okay? From there, once you've got those two things, your intention, and you've got a clear image in your mind of the total person, right? Everything, skills, attitude, personality, vibe, their energy, how they dress, how they are. Imagine what clients are saying to reception when they're coming out of the counselling session with this person, or out of the play therapy session with this person. What are they going up to reception saying? Are they saying, oh my gosh, that session was amazing. She's amazing. Like, wow, I feel really good now, Yes, I'm definitely going to book in the next session. Is she good with tech? Is she someone who could be good with tech if you spent time showing her? Do you know what I mean? So, and I'm just saying her, but could be anybody, right? So you want to get that. So they're the two things in place. The third thing then is I always recommend using SurveyMonkey, and you can use the free version of this. I'm not affiliated with SurveyMonkey. I'm just telling you the tech that I use for my recruiting when I was recruiting. So you go into SurveyMonkey, it will allow you to ask 10 questions. So this is pre-qualifying, right? This is going to save you a bucket load of time, because I tell you, I didn't know this in the beginning. I didn't have this strategy in the beginning. I just threw an ad up on Indeed because it was, air quotes, free. I wanted to save myself a buck. So I put an ad up on Indeed, and I was inundated with CVs from really inappropriate things, like truck drivers just randomly send in their CV. I know now that people just do that because they've got to say that they applied for 10 jobs a week to get their welfare payments and things. So it's really annoying. So now I don't do that. Now they have to apply through a link, and that link is the link to SurveyMonkey. In SurveyMonkey, I'll put the 10 questions. So I might ask, things like, of course, I want their contact details so I can reach out to them, but I might ask things that are important to me, like that check for their attitude, that check for their vibe, that check for their skill level, that check for their personality, all those kinds of things that I've put down in my intention and what I want in a candidate. So I put all those things down. And one of the other things that's important in there is I'll ask them what they're looking for an hourly rate, and I'll do it with a multiple choice, and I will give them like a hourly rate sort of range. Like, do you want this to that, that to this to that to this, and let them pick one, right? And I'm going to put low ones in there, I'm going to put high ones in there, and I'm going to put ones in the middle that are probably more about what I can afford to pay or what I'm willing to pay at that stage, things like that. So put all of that information in. Now, this saves you a bucket load of time. How? Because a few things. Number one, SurveyMonkey is going to notify you every time that question is completed, which is awesome. So straight away, we've screened out people who are time wasters, who are just randomly sending you in your CV. You're not even going to get notified of those people. So that's great. You've just saved yourself so much time. Second of all, SurveyMonkey is going to break down all of the responses for you that person wrote. And so you're going to have a quick visual there, because it includes little charts and data points and things like that. You'll be able to visually see straight away whether or not this is somebody that you want to take to interview. The other thing that SurveyMonkey does is it can collate the data in general. And that's really handy, because if you get 10, 20, 30, 40 applicants and it collates the data for you and you have a look at that, you'll start to get an idea of things like the education level that people are applying for your position with. You'll start to get an idea of what their desired hourly rate is. Those things are going to be really, really helpful for you. So definitely have a system like that, okay? Then you're going to do your interviews, and you want to do a structured interview, okay? A structured interview. We want that interview to include behavioral based questions, because of course we want to make sure that this person is going to be able to fit with the culture of your business, okay? So make sure you're including behavioral questions. Include things like case study, like what would you do in this situation? So think about some sticky situations that might have popped up for you in your experience with some of the clients in your practice, and maybe draw upon one or two of those and create your own sort of, de-identify case study and ask them, what would you do in this situation? That's going to give you an idea of, this person's skill, their attitude, their ability, their ability to practice ethically and safely, all those kinds of things. So include some things like that. I would also absolutely recommend doing an assessment that's going to help you identify their archetype, because archetypes are a wonderful way of finding out what somebody's natural skills and abilities are when it comes to recruitment. So there are tools that I use with my private clients. And if you book a session with me, I'll show you what the tools are and I'll show you how to use them and everything. But the archetype's going to tell you, well, this person really thrives in this situation, doing this kind of work, in this kind of environment with these kinds of clients and stuff like that. So that will help you, again, identify the best match. So this was really helpful for me when I was recruiting, because the business just kind of grew very, very quickly out of nowhere, right? For the longest time, it was just me plodding along, doing my thing, and then boom, it just kind of exploded, and I needed a clinician to come and work with me. But while I was doing this exact process, I'd done set my intention, I thought about who I wanted, I had the SurveyMonkey up, I did all of those things. And I was at the stage of interviewing, and during the interviewing, I was administering assessments to the people who were getting interviewed, like this one on archetypes and personalities that I'm sharing with you now. And I loved this particular candidate, and I really, in my head, I knew I was going to hire her. But her archetype thing came back that she really loves working alone, and that she really loves data and numbers, and that she really loves tying up loose ends, and she really loves systems and organizations and processes and things like that. And when that came out, those were not the things that were required for the position that I was recruiting for. But I had a backlog of outstanding invoices for work cover and TAC and lawyers and all that sort of stuff that I've been doing work for. And I had a lot of private client invoices. I had Medicare invoices that were outstanding, all this kind of stuff. And I was so far behind in my bookwork. And I mentioned this to her, and she said, I would rather do that than do the psychology stuff. And I said, okay, let's do it. So I hired her, even though I wasn't recruiting for somebody to do all of that for me, the debt collection and everything. She was just better at it, and she was in her element when she was doing that, more than she was in her element doing work on the couch with a client. So anyway, she stayed with me for 6 years, and it was amazing. We had an amazing relationship. She was so good at her job. We ended up, giving her more and more autonomy, and she created like standard operating procedures for the business. She was all about systems and processes, and she was working from home with her kids, and she just loved it, right? Anyway, and it also meant that I was able then to hire. I got a psych, and I had an accredited mental health social worker, but I also got other applicants that were in complementary and alternative health fields that I hadn't considered hiring or having. So there was a hypnotherapist that I hired. There was another animal assisted therapist that I hired. There was a behavior support practitioner that I hired. It just went on and on and on. So anyway, I'm digressing, but I just wanted to show you like what it was like for me. And this is why it's important that you understand what the process is and what you need to be mindful of, because if you just go and put that up on Indeed like I did back in the beginning, it'll be your worst nightmare, trust me. Now, the next thing to do is once you, when you're going through the interviewing stage, of course, you want to discuss the fees, and this is your opportunity to say that you pay a flat fee. Do not do percentages, because unless you understand how a percentage works, and there's a lot that goes into percentages, do not do it, because you'll mess it up. You won't be able to explain it. You won't be able to provide the subcontractor with assurances and things like that. And the subcontractor is going to think you don't value them, and they might walk away. And we don't want that to happen, right? Just because of a misunderstanding. So for that reason, unless you've worked with me and you've done PP 101 and you know about percentages, don't even mention them. What you're going to do is offer an hourly rate, just flat rate. This is the rate for counseling. This is the rate for reports. Do you know what I mean? Clarify all of that from the beginning and make sure that the rate aligns with what you can afford, yes, but also with what they're wanting. And you've got all of that information already, right? You're not going to take them to interview if they're wanting an exponential amount of money that the business can't afford or sustain, right? The subcontractor is there to work for you, right? That means part of their job is, with the work that they're doing, they're going to be adding to the bottom line of the practice, not taking away from it, okay? So put your business head on. Then when you have your contract, and you, if you're in PP 101, you've got a contract you can use. You might need to modify it, of course, depending on your state or territory legislation and stuff like that. But you have a base template there that you can work from that was written by a lawyer. So you're all good there. Go and make some tweaks and changes to that. But you want to get that contract signed. You want to have the start date signed, etc., etc. And then what you're going to do is have a proper onboarding process. So just like I said before, onboarding is not, oh, it's Monday, so-and-so starting today. Yay, amazing, wonderful. And then you both get to work a little bit early and you quickly give her a tour of the place and expect her to see clients. No. We're going to make sure that she has, a day or two where she can settle in. We're not going to overwhelm her. We're not going to rush her. We're just going to give her time to settle in. What that settling in time looks like is, of course, you're going to take her on a tour of the place, but then you're going to sit her down and block off time in both of your diaries. You're going to feel like this is costing you money, but honestly, this is saving you money because this person will stay with you longer if they have a proper onboarding process than if they don't, okay? It is worthwhile you taking the day off, or maybe taking a day and a half off, to help somebody get settled in. So you're going to sit down, you're going to show them the system, you're going to provide them with training in the system. So again, when you're doing your Survey Monkey, if you're using a particular software, you might want to ask them, have you used this software before? Yes or no? Or do you know what I mean? Are you someone who picks things up quickly? Yes or no? Would you consider yourself tech savvy? Yes or no? So choose someone who's either familiar. If not, choose someone who's tech savvy and can pick things up quickly. You're going to give them time to do things like set up a test client or a dummy client so they can have a look at how the billing works, how the files work, how onboarding the client works, how the assessments work, all that kind of stuff. You're going to give them time to go through your standard operating procedure manual. You probably don't even have one because it's been just you and you didn't need one, but now you've got somebody. And if you don't want them bothering you, asking you questions every 5 minutes, you need to have this manual there. It is a good thing for you and it's a good thing for them. It's good for you because you're not going to get irritated and bothered and resentful that this person is bugging you every 5 minutes, but it's also helpful for the person because they feel empowered and they know exactly what you want them to do if a client calls, if a client reschedules, if they can't access the system, or where to find the password and things like that. So all that is really important. It needs to go in your standard operating procedures. So you want to give them proper onboarding, okay? And yes, if you want to give them a little welcome gift, do it. But that's not onboarding, right? That's making somebody feel welcome, but it's not onboarding. Onboarding is a process and it needs to be beginning to end, all those kinds of things. Also, as part of the onboarding, please do not confuse clinical or professional supervision with what you want them to do in the practice. They're two separate things. If you're going to offer clinical supervision as part of the contract, then be mindful that you're not engaging in a dual relationship. Okay, it's not ethical, number one. Number two, it's going to be a waste of your time and a waste of your subcontractors if they don't feel like they can talk to you openly and freely about problems that they're having, because they say to themselves, oh, I don't want to tell Brooklyn that I'm struggling with this because then I might lose my job. Then they're just going to come along with fluffy things all the time and not get any help or any benefit, and it defeats the purpose. So try to reflect, ask yourself, is this a dual relationship or not? The other thing is, don't use clinical supervision to tell them what you want them doing in the practice and things like that. The supervision you're providing needs to be about their cases, needs to be about them in their own private practice, because they're subcontracting to you. They've got their own ABN. You might not be the only person that they're subcontracting to. All those kinds of things. Very, very important. So make sure all of that is discussed. The other thing too is, be really mindful of the culture of your private practice when you are in those early stages of recruiting. So before you even give someone a job, make sure they're going to fit in. And we kind of discussed that before. The other thing is, some people will say to me, oh, I really like this person. I want to give her the job, blah, blah, blah. But she wants more money, and she's leaving because she wants more money or something like that. If somebody wants a job with you and they want more money than you can afford to pay, or that the business can afford to invest in that person for now, the easiest way to handle this is to make sure that you've got a career progression pathway in place, right? This is a thing that a lot of practice owners miss. They just hire a subcontractor, pay them a certain amount of money, and then wonder why they leave. But if you think about when you were at work with an employer, you had things like annual pay rises, you had things like paid leave, you had things like career progression. So why not offer things like this to your subcontractor? Offer them a pay rise based on performance in the next 12 months. So if they're taking this pay now, what would that look like in 12 months if they got, 5% pay rise or something? Think about, what could the next steps be for this person? So might they, over 12 months, might they then help you identify opportunities to hire more subcontractors? Could they then be promoted to team leader or to senior clinician or something like that? And then could they take on more of your responsibilities, like doing the supervision on your behalf? Think about asking the person what their values are. If that person really values time and flexibility, how can you incorporate time and flexibility into the role, right? If that's something that they really value. So think about, how can you incorporate their values into the role? If we can connect the role with the values of the client and of course with your values, then again, you'll have more staying power with your subby. This is the same for retention. We think about how do we retain people and stop them from leaving. The simple way with that is a career progression pathway. So again, these are things that we can unpack for you in a one-to-one session. And we do go into this in a lot of detail in PP 101, so you've got information on how to do all of this in there as well. But I wanted to share this today because it's coming to the time of the year where things are getting really busy for a lot of practices, and people are starting to, have conversations in our communities now about, I'm thinking of hiring somebody, what's your advice and stuff like that. And that's how today's episode came about. So I hope that this has been helpful for you. And if you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to reach out. Okay. Now, in other news, just before we finish, remember that we do have the free marketing workshop for private practice owners coming up in July. So I'll put the link to that in the show notes. Also, I gave away a few freebies this week on Instagram. So you might want to head over to Instagram and grab those. They're totally free of charge. There was a meditation for imposter syndrome. And there was also, what else did I create? There was also a really fantastic guide on how to get more traffic to your website so that you can get more inquiries and clients. It was through an SEO guide that I made up for you, but it's got lots of other things in it as well. So head over to the Instagram. It's just at the Private Practice Coach. And grab those resources if you like. All right, that's all from me today. Have a happy Saturday, and I'll see you in Wednesday's episode. Bye for now. Hello and welcome to the Private Practice Podcast. I'm Dr. Brooklyn Storme, and with nearly 30 years experience in the industry, I'm really excited to share practical insights, valuable wisdom, and all the tools that you need to build a thriving private practice. So whether you're a counsellor, psychologist, social worker, or play therapist, this podcast is all about keeping it real with stories, strategies, and all the support you need to help you flourish in business. We're going to be embracing a mind, business, spirit approach, diving into honest conversations that will uplift your practice and soul. And if you haven't already, come and join us in the Counsellors Connect Australia Facebook group. It's totally free and you'll find a warm, supportive community of like-minded professionals. So go grab your favorite drink, your journal, a pen, get cozy, and let's dive into the mind, business, spirit approach to private practice that you've been looking for.